two difficult challenges as we head to the road, first in Tuscaloosa against a good Alabama team who's always very, very difficult in Coleman Coliseum tomorrow night. And then we go to Athens on Saturday where Mark has got his team playing very well, and they've done a very good job of protecting their home floor. So two difficult challenges on the road this week.
Our first question is from Matthew Harris of the Baton Rouge Advocate.
Morning, Coach. How are you?
Morning.
I'm going to join the litany of guys on the conference call who have kind of asked the question about, just the Marcus Smart fallout. You have a guy, a passionate player, obviously there in Marshall. Have you ever worried about that sort of situation, escalating with him? There have been, images out of him, obviously fans getting in his face. Have you ever worried about that with him in that sort of setting? And what's that like for a coach to have a guy who plays with that kind of passion, take him on the road and kind of be in those environments?
Our sport is pretty unique in that the fans are very, very close to the participants, probably more so than any other sport, in that the fans are right on top of you. And a lot of the venues in our league, literally you're talking 2 or 3 feet separation from the floor to where the fans are. And we play in an emotionally charged atmospheres many nights. So you certainly want to make sure that your kids are trying to keep their focus between the lines. You certainly want separation between the fans and the players. There's going to be talk at every opposing arena towards your players. That comes with the territory, and you have to try to prepare your guys for that as best you can. It's unfortunate in the Marcus Smart situation that he found himself in the stands, trying to make a play on the ball, and next thing you know, he's landing in the stands. So I think that certainly escalated that situation, not knowing all the particulars, but you certainly don't want your guys to be in the stands where some things like this can happen.
And I asked John Jones earlier, do you feel like just in the past couple of years that this has escalated, that this sort of, vitriol fans, sort of rain down on players has increased, or are there more eyeballs watching?
I think there's more eyeballs, more cameras. Everybody in the arena probably has a camera phone, so I just think there are fewer things that fall under the radar now simply because of so much media exposure and every individual having the opportunity to record something. I played back in the mid '80s, early '90s, and there were mean things being said back then too, I assure you.
Ben, thanks so much, Coach.
Next up is Cecil Hurt of the Tuscaloosa News.
Coach Kennedy, Marshall obviously attracts so much attention, but I wanted to ask about Jarvis Summers and how he's improved this year and what his contribution's been for your team.
Jarvis has been our most steady player, Cecil. He's really had a tremendous junior year. Typically when you get a kid in your program and he's going into year 3, you start figuring out what you got. And Jarvis has been consistent for us in years 1 and 2, and he really took that next step as a junior. I think a lot of it was based on physical strength. He got stronger, where he was able to make some plays that he couldn't make in the past, and he's playing with a great deal of confidence. And Marshall draws a lot of attention, both on and off the court. And the attention that he draws on the floor, I think Jarvis has done a much better job in year 2 of playing with him, of playing in those gaps that are created by the way people try to defend him. And as a result, he's had a very, very productive year for us.
Okay, next up is Hugh Kellenberger of the Jackson Clarion Ledger.
Hey, Andy, how you doing?
Hey, Hugh.
Martavius tweeted yesterday that he was about a week out. Is that in line with what you guys are thinking, or is that a little bit of maybe optimism on his part?
Well, I hope he's right. When you have a break, he had a break in his hand, and they put a plate in there, and his rehab has come along great. And our hope is that he'll be cleared for basketball-related activity soon. And then once that happens, then we'll find out. It's one thing to be cleared for activity. It's another thing to be able to perform at an SEC level in a basketball game. So once he's cleared for activity as it relates to basketball, then we'll have a much better gauge as to what transpires next.
Thanks.
Next is Jerry Tipton of the Lexington Herald Leader.
Andy, if I heard you right, you said that with Jarvis, by a player's junior year, you start figuring out what you have to work with. How typical is that of any player, that it takes a coach 2 years or so to, get a real feel for what he's got?
Well, I think when a kid becomes a junior, Jerry, just based on, again, the fact that he's got now 2 years of experience, there's nothing new to him. For instance, we go to Alabama and to Georgia this week. He's been in both of those venues. He knows what to expect. He's traveled with us. He understands the demands of winning on the road in major college basketball. And then physically, a lot of times it takes a couple of years for kids to understand their own body, to make the adjustments they need to make from a strength standpoint. Some guys need to gain weight, some need to lose weight, and then for him, and then there's a mental aspect of becoming a young man, and he's a 20-year-old now, and he kind of understands who he is and what he needs to do to be effective. And I think all of those come together, not only for Jarvis, but for most players when they become juniors. You start to realize, hey, this is what this kid is capable of giving you.
And so that leads to the follow-up of how reliable are all of the ratings of players coming out of high school, and everything you see a player do on a high school or AAU level. How reliable is that in terms of knowing what you're getting?
I'll say this, Jerry, when you're getting the players that Cal's getting, typically my wife could go with me and sit in the gym and pick out the best guy. The LeBron James, the Kevin Durants, the Kobe's, everybody can sit there and think, hey, those guys are going to be pretty good. Julius Randle, the Harrison, everybody could kind of see, hey, those guys are going to be good players. The guys like Jarvis Summers, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and he may be in somebody's top 100. He might not be. Those are the guys that once you have them in your program, and if they really commit themselves to being as good as they can be, then by the time they become a junior, they start performing at an all-league level like Jarvis is this year.